Okay, hello, welcome. Happy Friday. Happy Friday, everyone. We are like halfway through the hackathon. So you've made it this far. Congratulations, you're doing great. Halfway through. Let's keep going. I've been loving seeing everyone's projects and all your inspiration on Twitter, Discord. Just really, really great job. I'm Kate. I am on the marketing team here at Bolt. This is Alex, Chief of Staff at Bolt. We are wearing matching shirts. Me and Alex are we're just so in sync, now that we've done so many live streams together. And then Max is joining us. Max is the co-founder of Lingo.dev. Max is going to be showing us all about AI translation with Lingo.dev. So welcome, Max. Thank you for joining us this morning. Joining from San Francisco, chilly San Francisco, we've heard.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. For those of you who have not seen a live stream with us, YouTube is our most active chat. I will drop the link to our YouTube channel in the other channels, just so you can see the chat there. Throw your questions in the chat. We will be reading them and putting them up on the screen like Alex is doing right now. So just, throw your questions in there. We'll get to them. Awesome. Let's get started.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate. So I think the perfect place to start for those of you that aren't familiar with what Lingo is Max, can you tell us what does Lingo.dev do? And why should people be excited about today's live stream?
Yeah, for sure. So Lingo.dev helps dev teams and teams in general build multilingual products. So we help internationalize or localize user interfaces and content, and we help folks using LLM models for that. So that's what we do.
Very, very cool. So as I've said on a few of the past live streams, a lot of our audience here are aspiring entrepreneurs, or they're small business owners. Maybe they own agencies, or they're doing freelancing, or just participating in the hackathon, which is very much like starting a startup from scratch, right? You're looking for an idea, you're building it out, you're trying to get traction, you're trying to raise money or win prizes, as the case may be. So I think that there's a lot that folks can learn from folks such as yourself that are running these early stage SaaS businesses. So before we jump into like what is app localization and why should people localize their apps, I wanted to hear just a bit about the founding story of Lingo.dev and how that came together. So maybe a great place to start would be, how'd you meet your co-founder and how'd you come up with the idea?
Yeah, for sure. So we love hackathons, and actually, we met with my co-founder Veronica 8 years ago at work, and we've been building since then together. Before Lingo.dev, we built together another B2B SaaS, and then it got acquired. And after it got acquired, we were like, well, what should we do next? And the first thought was that we should go to a hackathon. And it was a hackathon at Cornell Tech in New York City. So we were based in Barcelona in Spain. So in like just 2 days after seeing the announcement, we just were like, yeah, why not? Let's book the tickets, let's book the flight. And we went to that hackathon. And that's where actually the original prototype of Lingo.dev was born. We didn't know what we want to build even after we arrived. So basically what we did is that we interviewed the sponsors of the hackathon, and we realized that the current challenge that they had was localization, and that it was so much hassle for like teams, product teams specifically. And then we were like, wait a second, but we actually not only had this problem ourselves in the previous product, but also at our past jobs, it was like one of those things that is blocking like the entire feature from being released just because you're waiting for translations. And we were like, yeah, let's try solving that. So we have built a prototype of Lingo.dev. Back then it was end of 2023. And we won the hackathon as a best dev tool. And then we were like, well, people seem to love the direction. Let's just keep iterating. Let's keep talking to users and shipping more stuff. And yeah, we kept working on it. We got our first users, our first customers, and then we got into YC last year. And then,
so this is this. I remember this story from when we first talked about you sponsoring the hackathon, and this is before the hackathon was planned out and rolling, and before we had almost 100,000 registrants. It was still just an idea, and I heard this story about the Cornell hackathon. And it was just like mind blowing because this is exactly the goal that we have for this hackathon, right? Like the unbelievable thing here is you show up to the hackathon without a clear idea. You just talk to the people involved in the event, you surface the idea, and then you go and start it, and it actually works. And it's like, okay, that is an incredible outcome, right? And we'll continue on with the story. It gets even more incredible from there, right? But like, that's already an incredible outcome for a hackathon. And that's an in-person hackathon with what, probably less than 2,000 teams competing in the whole thing.
Yeah, it was, I think, 150, something like that. Yeah.
So, I mean, that's almost so, and I don't know, maybe other companies came out of that as well. So we can't even say that it was, necessarily just you guys, but that's an incredible percentage, right? Like if we had 0.8% of the people who register for this hackathon, starting companies that go on to like get funding and be successful startups, that would be like close to 800 businesses spawned out.
Yeah.
So I just thought that was so inspiring to hear that. So, okay. So you win the hackathon. And then what's your next step after that?
So we had a prototype, and we are like deeply technical team. So like like every person is an engineer on our team, and so that gave us this advantage of like sometimes feeling what we need to do next, like what types of features to build, but it's not enough still. So we kept interviewing folks. So we wanted to find basically our like ideal customer profile who's going to be paying for solving this challenge. And we started with just cold outreach, like warm-ish and cold outreach. And it didn't, unsurprisingly, it didn't quite work at the beginning. But we were like, okay, but how do we know what to build next? Because like we cannot sell, and nobody wants to talk to us, right? So it's like, well, we just feel that what we are doing should be useful, but we can't even like book the demos with people, right? So we decided to switch the approach, and instead of like sending messages that sound like a sales pitch, we reframed them as like interview, just like research interview, and that was in fact true. We were not trying to sell anything in those calls, because what we actually needed was like conversations with people, so that we have more data for like to make decisions internally. So we rewrote the entire like email sequence, everything. We didn't even, I think, mention the name of the company. So it was like, hey, like we are researching like this problem space. Would you like to talk to us? So yeah, and it worked very well. It worked extremely well. We were able to book very many demos, like interview chats, and that helped us a lot, because at the end of the day, as we realized, we were looking, we wanted to understand how exactly our like ideal user talks about the problem, like what words they are using, like what is important. Because of course, every single business can be framed as like, oh, we are saving you money and like time, right? But that's not enough, right? You need to know exactly what to say and like how to explain the problem on your, let's say, landing page. And that helped us a lot in terms of like everything. basically, that we were doing after that. So that was quite an interesting hack that we used
Nice.
in the early days.
Yeah, I think that's really, really important. I think for a lot of, especially new builders, right? There's this classic trap of like highly technical product focused founders that just grind on building the product that they think is cool, but they never think to ask anybody else if they think it's cool. And I think it's quite possible that vibe coders could also, now that so many more people can build, there's even more people that could potentially fall into that trap of just building the thing that they think is cool and forget to ask anybody else. So I think that's a very, very important lesson. So awesome. And then ultimately you ended up getting into Y Combinator, raising funding, and now you're here. I guess anything else you'd like to add on that before we dive into localization and why it matters?
Yeah, I think important thing to note is that I realized that many folks think, sometimes people think, other founders, that you have some kind of secret, something that they don't know, and that something got you into YC. And after being accepted and going through YC, you just realize that it's not true. And the only secret is that people just started doing what they believe is right, and they did a lot of customer research and they talked to users a lot, and they just never gave up. So they kept pushing, kept iterating, kept pivoting sometimes, but they kept going. And I think that is actually the secret. So there is no there are no hacks. That's pretty much it. And you don't realize that until you actually get accepted. So that's my advice.
Absolutely. That rings true from what I've seen. Appreciate you sharing a little bit about the background here. Let's back it up to that moment at Cornell Hacks where you were interviewing people and you came across the idea, and let's dive in. So localization, what is the application localization, and why should folks that are building for this global hackathon think about this topic and think about implementing it in their apps?
Yeah, for sure. So the previous, I think it all goes back to us bootstrapping our previous product with my co-founder, and we realized that when you're bootstrapping software product without external funding, you're always looking for distribution shortcuts. You're always looking for some underlooked let's say things that will give you that edge to get your next 100 users, next 1,000 users, right? And we realized that oftentimes actually that can be done with just making the product accessible to more people around the world by translating the user interface into all those other languages, right? And the problem that we had before AI became a thing, is that Google Translate is just bad, right? If you're using to translate a website, yeah, it's just terrible, right? And with LLMs and other machine translation technologies like Google Translate is the same problem, because it's technologies that are built for translation, specifically, right, in certain way. But things are changing dramatically with LLMs, because at the foundational level, LLMs, they just know which word is likely to come next after the previous word. So they don't know what translation even means. They just know what the next word is the most likely word, right? And that means that we can not actually just translate from one language to another, but we can recreate the meaning and intent of piece of text in another language if we provide enough context and enough of correct context to the AI. And after we realized that, we decided that we need to build all these tools And we want to build all these tools that make this process now easy in this new world where modern builders want to click a button and get the job done. Pretty much like in Bolt, you write a prompt, you click enter, you get a new feature on your screen. So that's the experience that builders of the future want when it comes to localization. And yeah, and that automatically allows more users to use the app. So that's, yeah.
Well, that sounds a little too good to be true. Let's let's see how this thing works. Because I would love to have this capability in my applications, and not having to hire a massive team of people to go in and manually translate and have all kinds of different versions of the page. It sounds pretty sweet. So let's see how exactly this works.
All right, yeah, let's get started with just creating a simple app. I have some prompts ready. So this one says black and white landing page with hero section only, just for simplicity. So let's wait for Bolt to build something cool, something shiny. I see in the chat folks are asking what's the difference between Lingo.dev and ITNN. So ITNN is like general concept, like of internationalizing the app, right? And there are a bunch of different ITNN frameworks, and Lingo.dev's main product, which is Lingo.dev, like localization engine and API, it can integrate with whatever. It's framework agnostic. But what I'm showing today is this new open source tool that we have launched that doesn't require any changes to the existing components that you have in your app. So I'm going to show you how it works in just a second, and how in just a couple of prompts in the Bolt interface, you can get your app, like translate your app in all the languages. And what's important, you will just install and forget it. So you will not have to maintain the ITNN aspect of it. All right, we have something. Wow, some even like circles in the background. That's pretty cool. Every time I tried, it generated like new things, and like, yeah, this is really cool.
That's actually
okay.
a really good side tip and trick about Bolt that I highly recommend. If you're planning on building something like serious and you're getting started with Bolt, I would just run your first prompt 3 times and then pick the one you like the best, because LLMs are non-deterministic. And I mean, this is quite a fancy landing page to get out of a prompt. Build me something black and white with the hero section.
Yeah. So now I'm gonna. By the way, I'm using like predefined prompts that we already experimented with internally, but we will share a README file with all these like details that you can just copy paste into your own project. So just you can just observe for now. So what I'm gonna do essentially is that I'm gonna ask it to implement Lingo.dev, and what we are. It's important to understand that Lingo.dev is our like brand, right? But we have different tools under that brand. One of the tools is localization API that actually does the translation using LLMs, but there are other tools that product teams use. And one of them is called Lingo.dev compiler, and that is what I'm showing today. Right. The documentation is available on the website, and drop your questions here in the chat if you have them. So let's get back to the demo. We have a web page. It's pretty simple, just a hero section, and it's just in English, right? Nothing is yet multilingual. And let's copy the instructions and install Lingo.dev compiler. It's going to fetch a new package. It's going to install it, and it's going to create a .env file. I'm going to explain what it means in a second. Ideally, it should now finish installing and show a warning that an API, Lingo.dev API key is missing. So let's wait for that. Alex, do you see my another tab? So if I do this, do you see?
Yep,
Okay.
I can see it.
Okay, cool.
Geraldine talks about a book back on what we were talking about before about validating ideas and talking to users. So if you build
Oh, I see someone in the chat, person with nickname Best Codes. It's actually one of our users and one of our contributors who's pretty active on Discord. And yeah, I didn't expect anyone from our community to join us today, but it's very cool. It's very cool. Have it.
Let's go.
All right. So it finished with. Yeah, as I said, it finished with an error saying that there are no like invalid credentials, right? And that is expected because I haven't yet added Lingo.dev API key. So that is needed to actually do the actual translations, right? So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go to Lingo.dev, sign up using email or Google account, and after you do that, you will see something that looks like this. And you'll need to click this button over here, Get API Key. After doing that, you'll just scroll down, copy your API key over here. We'll just copy it, and you'll go back to bold.new, and you will add it here. You will see this .env file already created for you, but it will be without the key itself. So you'll just paste it here and click Save. And then you're gonna tell it something like, I've added the API key to the .env file.
You probably could also just manually go back to the preview and refresh, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I could have stopped, actually. Yeah, I could have stopped or like started the dev server manually here in Bolt terminal as well. But yeah, it's just same thing. Okay, so it says transforming. Let's wait for a couple of seconds. And now I think it's running. Let's see. And I'm gonna wait for it to finish loading.
So while that's going, can you explain kind of what the .env file is and how to think about that for less technical? Ooh, look at that.
Yeah. So when you do that, yeah, I'm going to explain that in a sec. So when you finish the installation, first thing you will see is your app now in another language. But if you'll keep using language switcher, and adding this language switcher was part of that onboarding prompt that I copy pasted, right? So you can customize it also if you want. But language switching will not work from here just yet because you need to deploy the app. So it's hosted already on, like, not inside the Bolt like sandbox, but like on a like separate URL, right? Just because how language switching works under the hood, it uses cookies and stuff like that. So TLDR, you need to click deploy. .env file is a secure way for you to store API keys locally, right? So if you need something like some kind of API key during the build process of the app, like in this case, you put it into your .env file. Okay, let's. So it created a URL over here, and you can see we can switch to French and to Spanish, and the app is now multilingual. So that's the magic.
That's mind blowing. So, I mean, just in case you're seeing this and you're like, what the heck's going on? I don't know. But here's what I know is not going on. You did not write different languages for your app. You did not have to go through every page and add things to the code. It's just the magic of this compiler library automatically translating and replacing the text for you in real time, which it's just like mind blowing how simple that setup process was. How did you guys get this to work?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We support currently, by the way, around 80 plus languages. And these, what you have seen just now, it can be used, by the way, with your own API key, even without Lingo.dev. How this works under the hood is that as you, Alex, mentioned, this text, you see like this H1 and subtitle, I haven't wrote this text. And not that I didn't write it, it's like it doesn't exist here in the original file, which means that you can keep iterating on your user interface, on your design, without like traditional hustle that people usually have to do to set up ITNAN. And this is very important because if you haven't yet had this experience of doing ITNAN in traditional way, you would need to extract all these pieces of text into a separate file and call it, let's say, en.json. And then you would have fr.json and es.json for different languages. And then during runtime, you would pick one file or another file and use like pieces of text for one or from another file. And that is a lot of work to, first of all, extract the things into those files. But that's not the biggest problem even, because you want to iterate on your design. You want to change stuff in your, like how it looks, how it's rendered, where it is on the screen, right? And you will have to like constantly go back and forth, but you don't have to do that anymore. The text just remains in the app as you write it. That's it. All magic happens here. So this is what we have added in the vite config ts file. This file is basically
a little, Max. Sorry.
Oh yeah, let me
just make it a little bit bigger.
Can I? Okay, maybe that's about
little button on the left of code there at the top where it's code and preview will actually collapse.
Oh,
yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So this file is something that you don't touch normally as you like keep vibe coding your app, but it instructs Bolt how to build your app essentially. And we have added this one more line, which is Lingo.dev compiler, and we are using it as one of these steps. So basically, by the time your app finishes building and finishes deploying, it already has all the translations inside of it for all these tiniest even pieces of text. That's it. Hikmet is asking, are static sentences stored statically or dynamically? Is there any support for Next.js? Fantastic questions. We support 3 setups. We support Vite, which is here on the screen. We support Vite plus React Router, and basically Remix. And we also support Next.js, but App Router only. So currently, only 3 setups are supported. If you have, we have documentation on the website how to like do the do the setup, and yeah, Bolt is using Vite, so you can use it.
If any of that is kind of above your technical level, don't worry, you can just use I mean, Bolt heavily defaults to Vite and React, so if you don't say anything, there's like a 90% chance that that is what you're going to end up with anyways. And then when you do your first prompt to get your app going, if you're like, I don't know, Vite, React, what the heck is all that, just go into discussion mode on Bolt and just say, hey, go to the internet, check the Lingo.dev docs. Is this current project compatible with Lingo.dev? And it'll just tell you. And then if it's not, just ask it for a prompt to start over with a project that is compatible. That simple.
Yep, exactly. And if you have any questions, we will post links to our documentation, to our Discord. If you have some like custom setups, just go to our Discord, ask questions, and the community will help. And our team also will help you set up and like configure your project. So yeah.
Cool.
That's it.
Real-time chats.
This is a great question. Lingo. So this is out of scope for the compiler because Lingo.dev compiler, and it's this thing, right? It's for user interfaces specifically, but Lingo.dev main product, it has an API and SDKs for JavaScript and PHP, so they can be used for like real-time translations.
So we have a question about pricing. Does it translate the whole code base at the same time, or does it translate as you navigate through the app?
It's kind of both. So if you do build, then it translates the entire app. But then if you do build again, it will not translate anything unless you have changed something. And if you, let's say, run it in dev mode, then it's going to be translating pages one by one as you keep navigating through your app, just because how module loading works, basically. Sorry, Alex, I'm going into technical details.
Yeah, what is dev mode? Do you think that's something that the user should be aware of?
Say it again.
What is this dev mode that you speak of? Is that something that the Bolt users should be aware of?
No, we will give you guys the guides that you need to set it up with Bolt. You don't need to, I just see folks are in the chat are asking quite technical questions. So we have answers to them in the docs, but for non-technical folks who just want to get the job done, we'll give you a README file with all the prompts, all the instructions, and we will publish it on our website so you can set it up with your app in no time. And also, we will still have Discord if something goes, wrong with your specific app. We'll be able to help you. So just.
I'm dropping the link in Discord right now. I'm seeing a lot of questions about specific languages. Is there a resource where you can see which languages that, if you're interested in, that you would want to translate?
Yeah, I think it really depends on the audience users expect to. Sorry, what was the question? The list of available languages, or when it makes sense?
Do you have a resource where people can see all the languages provided by Lingo?
Okay, so kind of it's available for with a certain command and through the docs, but it's top language, 85 languages in total, including all major European languages, America's languages. We have different variations for Spanish, for example. Spanish is spoken in Latam, or Spanish is spoken in Spain. There are some differences, sometimes significant differences. Yes, is it able to translate idioms properly from language to language? If you're using Lingo.dev API, then yes. If you're using Anthropic, OpenAI, or Grok key directly, then you gotta configure that yourself. But Lingo.dev main product, yes, it can translate idioms as well.
I'm guessing Sanskrit, the dead language from, I believe, ancient Egypt. That one probably not on the list.
Fun thing, we've added this language that is spoken in Star Wars.
Is it the Jabba the Hutt language?
Yeah, I don't remember the name, but one of the main languages that are spoken in that universe. It was April 1st joke, but yeah, we mostly focus. We only focus on practical languages, right? And the process that we use to add new languages is that we receive a request for a new language, and within a week or two, we do all the needed benchmarks, because we measure the quality internally before we publish the language, and then after we make it work. We make it available. I see a question Gemini models also are available with Google AI Key. So I see a question that language feature is in English, but this is in German. Yeah, you should deploy the app first to be able to switch between the languages, because it uses certain mechanisms that do not work with this sandbox in Bolt. But if you open it in another tab, then you can switch between let's see. Yeah, you see German, French. You can switch between them, but you cannot switch between them in here. So
awesome. Let's see. Here's the question that I'm thinking is going to be a no, but I'm not sure based on what we talked about with React, because I think Expo is React Native, but I don't know. It's a little more technical than me, but yeah. Do you think this will work with the Expo framework?
It will not. For now, it's not supporting that. So it's only Next.js app router, Vite, which Bolt is using, and Vite in combination with React router. Another question that somebody has just asked, whether it's possible to customize certain like phrases if like I don't like the translation, for example. And the answer is yes, it is possible not only to customize certain things, but also to skip certain parts from being translated. Everything is described in the docs. So if you go to Lingo.dev and you click on this section, sorry, let me switch probably to the white mode. You go to Lingo.dev compiler and you will see all these like docs about different edge cases and features that you can use. But essentially, if you want to, let me find it. If you want to skip something from being translated, you'll just add this thing.
Okay.
You'll see it in the docs.
Let's test something. Let's test something here. Okay, cool. We see it in the docs. We know what this should look like. Let's go back to Bolt. And if you can, let's see what would happen if we were a non-technical user that had no idea that this was even oh, that's cheating. That's cheating. Don't you dare taste that. So if you can click that, yes. And then at the bottom of the chat there, see the little discussion mode below the chat input box. Let's turn that on. And then let's prompt that said, let's pick a phrase from our app and then that we want to not translate, like maybe the H1, you know, like maybe our H1 is like very about our brand. And so we don't want that to ever change languages. We probably don't even really need to find it in the app, to be honest. I bet if we just say in discussion mode, let's just say like, I do not want my, you know, H1 to ever be translated. Please check the Lingo.dev compiler docs for best practices and update my project to make sure that the H1 never changes.
All right, let's try. I haven't tried that.
And maybe just say like you know, use search just to make sure that it actually searches.
All right, use search.
Yep, and let's see what happens here. Hopefully it'll tell us exactly, you know, the answer that you would have done there manually.
Alex loves testing the boundaries on live streams.
Yeah, let's see how this goes. So,
whoa, no way.
Is it right?
Yeah, it is.
Now you just click implement this plan and then we can redeploy. See, this is what I'm telling you, Max. We don't need to be going into these code files, reading docs, you know, that's so old school. Just ask discussion mode.
Okay.
So here's another trick. As you can see here, it's rewriting the entire file, which is fine. But just as a tip for the view, did it do it?
Yeah, it did it. Yeah, it's over here.
Awesome. And then is that going to show up in the preview or do we need to redeploy? Well, it's still writing code. While that's going, let me show you something. If you hover over the M in the lower left-hand corner there.
Yeah.
And then you go to settings and feature previews. There's a toggle there for diffs. So you saw how it rewrote the whole file there, which that's fine when you're making major changes. And I wouldn't necessarily do this right now because you got to reload the page and it's annoying. But for people watching, that's how you turn on diff mode. Then instead of it rewriting the whole file, it'll just rewrite the one line where it needs to put that skip tag in. And so that's just something to keep in mind for people. Like, once you're kind of done building out the major functionality and you're just trying to do minor little edits, like don't translate this part, or I don't like the color of this, or what have you, diff mode plus discussion mode, super powerful. Anyways, that's the end of my side. So there we go.
Yeah, you see?
That easy. That easy.
Yeah.
Don't even need to look at the code file. But
Yeah,
we can see that skip tag that you showed us in the docs has shown up there. So
yeah, yeah. Let's yeah, over here. Yeah, I mean, I'm a technical guy. I know how these things work under the hood, but every time I use them, wow, I'm always mind blown. You guys are doing such a great job with Bold.new. This is insane. It knew about this feature already. This is crazy.
that's the beauty, because I assume you just shipped that feature to the docs relatively recently, right?
Yeah, it's like less than 2 weeks ago. So
And that's the power of discussion mode. It has search, so you just tell it to search the docs, and then 90% of the time you don't have to go read the docs, as long as you just know that docs exist and that you can tell discussion mode to go find it for you. It's a magical experience. So
yep.
let's see, we got some more good questions in here. Yerbo, we are going to get to your question. It's on the list. There is a solution for that. In the meantime, okay, I think we already answered Hikmet's question here, but let's just hit it again. So basically, even in a Next.js app, right? This is pretty technical, but the translation is happening at build time, right? So it's going to translate your whole app when you basically hit deploy. And that's going to work basically the same with Next.js, right?
Yes, I see folks are asking about that, and also like static versus dynamic translations. So it really depends on the context what that means exactly, but typically it means whether the translation is being done just once when you build the app and deploy it, or it's being done every time user visits the page, and translations maybe are cached somewhere and are being fetched. So that is not the case, right? When you build your app, you do like build command, or like Bolt does that for you. That's it. So the usage that you incur there, it's like that's it. You don't spend any more like tokens or whatever when your users use the app. If you use Lingo.dev API for real-time translations for whatever use case, basically it's usually for like content that you store in your database. Then of course, every time you call Lingo.dev API asking for translation, yeah, it's gonna cost you a little bit every time. But it's not the case for user interfaces. You just build it. That's it. It's multilingual, and then you can like customize on the right things.
And that kind of flows perfectly into this question around the subscription model and pricing. So I know you mentioned that you can use a Lingo.dev API, and that'll get you the best translation experience with idioms and that kind of thing. You can, of course, also use your own API key from any LLM, probably not as well fine-tuned for this though, but talking about the subscription model for the Lingo API, how does that work?
So it's a common question. Typically, what works best is that there is a monthly subscription that has certain amount included, certain amount of like translation volume included in it, and then there is a usage-based component on top. The reason this is what users like the most typically is because if you develop your app regularly, like if you keep developing the app, there's certain things that always are changing on your screen. You move components between the pages, meaning of the elements change, like you change your sign in button to log in, sign up to register, and vice versa, right? So you have to keep retranslating all those smaller pieces of text. And that's why small subscription fee is what typically works best for the users. But there is also usage-based component on top of that for larger volumes, larger apps.
I imagine most people will be totally fine within the subscription tier plan, especially during the hackathon, unless you're building some Wikipedia 2.0 type website. Probably not.
Also important to note that, guys, you're getting, if somebody doesn't know that yet, you're getting a promo code from, I think guys from Bolt have already sent out the email, so you should have access to those promo codes. And also another common question that sometimes folks are asking is that if you stop, let's say if you subscribe to Lingo.dev, you translate your app, and then at some point you decide, well, I just want to keep it live, but I don't want to develop it anymore. Will my translations disappear? The answer is no. So your translations are part of your project when you build the project, and they remain there. So we don't host them. We do not keep them hostage. So you can yeah, it's pretty flexible.
Awesome. I don't know if we fully hit this, because I know there was I think this is kind of the next. So we talked about static sites. It just translates at build. Next.js sites where it's generated real time, it'll need to hit the API. I think Yerba is getting at the next level of the question, which is, what if you're actually fetching dynamic text from like a Supabase database? I know we talked about that briefly yesterday. Do you have, I think we're not going to fully do the demo of that right now, but do you have kind of a next step or a tip and trick where someone should go to figure that part out?
Yeah, that is text is dynamic and we fetch it from somewhere. So if it's CMS, then yeah, we can't help you with that, guys. Sorry, if you're fetching it from CMS. However, if your content, let's say blog or like documentation part of your product is in Markdown files and already in your project, then you can use Lingo.dev for that as well. As for the real-time-ish content or user-generated content that you keep in your database, Lingo.dev has API and SDK to make that work. So all the docs can be found here. And apparently Bold.new does such a fantastic job like suggesting best practices, because it already knows about the information in these docs. So you can check them out, use discussion mode with Bold, and then join our Discord and ask questions, and we'll help you figure out like technicalities. So yeah.
Totally. And then since we're already talking about Yerba's questions, I think we kind of already hit this, but I saw another person in chat asking us again about blocking text. So I think if you had a page with some English and some French, and if you don't want to have some of the text on that page translated, you would just do the process here where you ask it to add the data lingo skip tag to the particular blocks of text that you don't want to be translated. And then you would never, and it's that simple. Don't need to know anything technical, just use discussion mode. And I think this is a great point as well from GoCrow. Thank you. Trying to create some confidence. You can do this for sure. I am also non-technical, and I've messed around with our tool a lot, so I kind of have a sense of the tips and tricks. But totally valid point, right? AI, this is just fundamentally a good point for everyone to keep in mind. AI is not magic, and it's far from perfect in where we're sitting here in 2025, and it's only going to continue to get better. But there is this skill set of how you think through these problems, how to use the different modes in Bolt, when you need to pull in outside information to help move things along. And yes, you still are. AI is not here to replace you. It's just here to make your job easier. And you are a very important component of driving the project forward, iterating through problems and finding solutions. 100% agree.
Yeah, I see some people are shocked about the magic that happens, and like, well, if the translations aren't real time and they're part of the project, then where are they? So that's a good question. They are eventually a part of your product, and they're here. So there's a bunch of metadata files, a bunch of 2 files with the translations, and they are automatically being created in your project. Typically, you wouldn't need to modify them. You can, but they are part of your project. In fact, they exist in this folder.
Nice. I think that goes well into the next question here from Nicholas.
What about SEO using this tool? So it impacts it positively if you set it up with, for example, with your blog that is already multilingual, or if you want to make your blog multilingual, you can use other Lingo.dev tools for that. For example, we do that for ourselves. We do that for Solana, for example, and we can process like high volumes of Markdown files and make them multilingual for you. And this particular demo is focused on static elements of the user interface, because even for your blog like app, you will still have like buttons and like navbar and all that type of stuff. So we can use Lingo.dev compiler for that. And for the rest, meaning for the content, you can use other things from Lingo.dev.
Adios, best codes. Good having you in the chat. Awesome. I saw also El Haidi said, can you please ask my question to your host, but I don't see your question. So no, currently I cannot, but I would be willing to. Oh, there it is.
Is there a way to store API key using edge functions when deploying rather than using .env? Yes. So I think Bolt has documentation and like best practices how to make it work. Right, Alex?
I mean, yeah, really, it's actually not that. You don't really need docs. You just basically say, please store my API, my Lingo API key securely in a Supabase edge function. That's basically.
Yeah. I just wanna clarify. You need that only if you're using Lingo.dev API, for example, like on your backend in those edge functions. Then you should do that.
I don't
think
this is important. This could sound technical, but actually this is simple. I think it's simple. Let me try to spit it back to you as a non-coder.
Okay.
If you're building just a normal static set of pages like we're doing here, where the text content is just stored in your app, there's no content management system. It's not, the text content is the same for all the users. It's not being generated in real time. Then that means that when you hit the deploy button, all the translations occur right then. So you're not actually including the API key in the public version of your app. You're just using it privately here in Bolt to translate. So for most basic use cases, you don't need to worry about storing your API key in an edge function because you're not deploying it with your app. But if you're doing any kind of real-time translation, any of these advanced questions we've been answering about Next.js, real-time generated pages, or data that's stored in a Supabase database, etc., and you're translating it in real time, then you will need to think about this. And this is the same for every API that you use with Bolt. If it's being used, in real time by the users of your app, you need to store it in the edge function so that your users cannot see your API key. Did I get that right, Max?
Yeah, it's perfect. Yep, exactly. So
beautiful. Yeah. Beautiful. Nice stream. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. I think that wraps us up on questions here. This is just a general hackathon question. Yes, it is okay to do some development in VS Code, but the project needs to be primarily made with Bolt. Oh yeah, there's the answer to that right there from the rules. Awesome. Cool. Max, anything else that you want to leave the people with here before we wrap this up?
You guys came to the right place. You saw the magic that Bolt can do, like with the documentation and how to skip elements. I saw so many great projects built on Bolt, and just keep building. Find the thing, find the product, find the niche, the industry that you're passionate about. Find the problem that you see yourself solving like 24/7, without getting tired because you're obsessed with that problem, and just keep iterating and keep building. So good luck.
Awesome. Well, it was great having you on the stream, Max. Super glad we got to finally do this, and really excited to see people submitting apps to the hackathon that are multilingual and globalized right out of the box. So super appreciative of you joining us today, and thanks to everybody in the chat. And we will see all of you on Monday for the next hackathon live stream.
Yep. See you, everyone. Join Discord and ask questions there. Lingo.dev /Discord.
Actually, we have a live stream this afternoon too. Eric is going to be doing Hackathon News Network. That's a mouthful. That'll be at 3 p.m. Pacific. So go to River, put it in right now, /Bolt. And he will be interviewing some users. Awesome.
Awesome. Later, everybody.
Thank
Peace.
you.